Welcome back to the Click Down. I'm your host, Steve Beals, and today we're going to take a look back at the past year developments that Citrix has delivered, and take a little bit of a look into 2024 to potentially see what's coming. And I've invited a special guest to join me today, Calvin Hsu, who is the Vice President of Citrix Product Marketing, and someone I have wanted to get onto the podcast for a long time. And I know it's a long time coming, Calvin, for you to come on. So welcome to the Click Down.
Well, the guest list must be very long because, I've been trying to get on too. And it's great to be here. Thanks so much for setting up this
no problem. And, I figured I delayed your guest appearance, till we got to the end of the year. So I figured you'd be the best one to wrap up our year here for Citrix and on the podcast. So I definitely appreciate you coming on.
And what a year it's been.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, that's where we can just jump right in. I mean, we obviously have had a lot of change when you think back to the beginning of this year. I know for me and the team I'm on, we went through a lot of change, and as an organization as a whole, we did. Not just product wise, but all through our organization. So is there things that you look back upon now for this past year that really stand out to you, like that we did good, that maybe something we could have done different, or what's your whole thought process on that?
Yeah, I guess first I would say, remember when we were kind of all, as the pandemic was closing, right, and people were talking about we all just lost sense of time. Right? and things that were a week felt like a month, and things that were like 6 months felt like 2 days, right? Like the sense of time was all distorted, and that continued very much for me, and I think for a lot agree. This past 2023. Yep. It was like, it feels like you say, this earlier this year or this past year, I almost feel like, oh my God, was that just this year? It's like we've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years. So a lot of it is a blur. But if I look back on it, I think, there was just such a rapid progression from, say, this time last year in 2022, and there being just an immense amount of uncertainty about strategy, about team makeup, about resources available, and all that. And then now, fast forward to right now, it's like, okay, there's a lot more clarity on not just the product, but the business strategy, the customer engagement, and how we're going about things, even inside ball kind of operational things. We're getting our feet under us and really understanding. So the progress has been just really, really stunning. And if I think back to the first sort of coming out statement that we made and that I got to participate in, which would be, we did a webinar in February, and that was like the first time we really said, okay, we're here, we're back. Rumors of our death have been greatly exaggerated, and here's a strategy, and we're going to focus on a lot of the things that customers and partners have asked for over the years. We are, focusing on hybrid multi-cloud in a more complete way than we had before. We're reinvesting in a lot of the core desktop virtualization capabilities and things that we're known for. And by the way, we're not investing in things that are more ancillary or that are a little further afield from where that core competency is. And so it was really just like getting that out, and then now looking back at this year saying, okay, yeah, we actually did that. Yeah. We executed on exactly what we said we were going to do. I think we've learned a bunch of new things. We're building some new habits, and have identified some new areas to innovate in. But we said what we were going to do, and we've been working on along that path all year. So that's been very
gratifying. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, coming from somebody who obviously was, involved in that and a lot of the operational change and, the way things roll, but like even looking at it, like product wise, in the role that I've been in for the last few years now, we obviously had a lot of focus on our cloud products, right? And a lot of the content as a content creator was focused on that. So it was good when we made the decision of, hey, we're not just focusing on cloud anymore. We're focusing on premises, and because those were the questions I was always asked. Messages on LinkedIn, or going to events like, hey, what about on prem? So it was good for us to, I think, get back to that.
I might phrase it a little bit differently. You said focus on cloud, focus on on-prem. I think the real change was focusing on the customer and
Yes.
just focusing on what they were asking us to do, right? So I've talked to plenty of customers who are 100% cloud and a bunch of customers who are 100% on-prem. And so that really just laid out the mission, said, okay, if we focus on what the customer needs, then it is
Perfect.
both.
Yeah.
It is not one or the other.
Yeah, perfect. If you thinking about that and taking that into account, and what customers want, and thinking about some of the products that we've delivered this year, and the innovations. I mean, I know I've sat in meetings, we've had the running slide of everything that we've done, and I know there's a lot of top of mind things that I know that I've come in saying, yeah, this to me was cool. This was a great feature. This was a great enhancement for us. What are your top 3, 4 product features or enhancements that we put out this year?
Hard to pick just a few, but I'll lump them into sort of some big categories. I think one, you can't overlook, just sort of, as we said, sort of the refocus on those customers that need to have some sort of on-prem control plane, right? Not just the workloads, but also the control plane going on-prem. So that has sparked a bunch of things, including paying more attention back into some of the tried and true components like the storefront and the gateway that are on-prem. It sparked thinking more about how can we make the on-prem and their cloud counterparts interact with each other or come to a more common code base. So setting out the strategy there for storefront and for really what is cloud storefront, but we've been calling workspace platform, which then led to the ability to create secure private access, which was never intended to be an on-prem solution at all. It was really built only for the cloud. It enabled us to bring that very rapidly on-prem, plug into the same gateway and storefront infrastructure, and create an on-ramp for customers into some of our newer technologies, like SPA and like the associated things it does with Enterprise Browser. I would say of the things that have impacted me personally the most, Enterprise Browser has got to be one of them. There are so many things that I do inside of a virtual app or a virtual desktop, but increasingly, my world lives inside that Enterprise Browser now, and so I have to say that's been one of the things that has impacted the way I work, as well as the conversations that I'm having with customers. They see that and they're like, okay, I see that there's sort of life beyond virtualization for Citrix, or life in addition to virtualization is probably the better way to put it. So that was huge. I'm extremely proud of all the work that we've done on the multiple clouds that we support. The continued expansion on GCP, the announcement and the partnership with AWS on Workspace's core, the launch of the Windows 365, value add there, as well as more recently making the announcement with Microsoft that our provisioning capabilities have hit like a scale and a speed beyond anyone's expectations. Even Microsoft's engineers were so impressed with how quickly we could spin up 5,000 desktops in a single tenant, that they wanted to promote that at their own customer event at Microsoft Ignite. So just tremendous work there on the infrastructure side. I'm going well beyond
No,
4 or 5 years.
that's awesome. Like, and the thing is like that's the one thing I love about my role, right? Is like I get to touch all this, right? And a lot of times I get to touch it sometimes when it's early, sometimes when it's about to be released, and it's like I go through some of this. I'm like, man, this is like so cool, like it
Yeah,
really gets me like excited, when I think about like, and I think and I'm like in the admin world too, right? So like I think about like activity manager, and to me, like when I'm doing stuff for activity manager, I'm like,
totally.
man, 20 years ago when I was a Citrix admin, like this would have been like awesome, like being able to say just go here rather than turn it on and turn it off again, so yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
uh,
Activity manager, auto
Yes,
scales
yes, that was
advancements,
another one I
and
had written down was autoscale. Like, because like even just some of the tech previews we've come out with lately with the insights, and I just did a video for autoscale insights, and as I'm going through this, I'm like, wow, like it just, I just the innovation, I'm loving what we're coming out with.
it's really
Yeah, it
coming
really
together.
is. It really is.
And you can't not mention HDX. I
Yeah.
was kind of saving that one for last, but it's nice to see that we said at the beginning of the year one of the big areas of investments for us was going to be in HDX and sort of the crown jewels there, and then we go and we get new codecs in, we
Mm-hmm.
get new EDT loss tolerant mode, we get like all these audio diagnostics, like a whole host of things that have come out, and just overall improving that end user experience, the performance, the bandwidth efficiency, and just maintaining the leadership there. So it's great to see that even something that is sort of been our, as I said, our crown jewels for so long continues
Right.
to find headroom to make
Exactly.
improvements and innovation.
Exactly. Thinking about products and obviously looking into as we embark on 2024, is there anything that you can share that we're going to be, delivering in 2024 that, again, excites you, or, we know that customers have been asking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, well, I'll pick up where I left off with the HGX. I think we've been talking a little bit about this idea of bringing more ever increasing amounts of intelligence and dynamic responsiveness to HGX. And I'll say it here in a few forums. I've been coining or leveraging sort of an extension to that brand calling it
Mm-hmm.
HGXI, really making the HGX stuff more intelligent, more self-configuring, self-healing, that kind of stuff. So I think directionally expect to see us continue to do more there, and I think that'll be fantastic. We just announced the tech preview of the Terraform.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Capabilities.
I'm like, when that was announced, when I first saw that, I jumped right up after it was presented, and I went right up to Jason Samuel, and I was like, hey, I'm getting you
Yeah.
on a podcast. We're doing, I mean, this, like, I was so jacked for that, because it was like, just seeing that, and having him go through that. Yeah, that was, I loved, like, that was probably like, that is, I have a notebook here with some notes, and that was like the big thing I had circled about, like, my, what I'm most excited for. So
Yeah, and I think what's great about it is that it's not just the Terraform provider, right? It is indicative of a direction and of sort of a
mm-hmm.
broader set of benefits coming towards the customer in terms of automation, sort of consistency of deployment, right? Uh, Having best practices built into the provider rather than having to kind of reinvent best practices every time you
Right.
deploy, right? So things like that. So I think that's a huge thing, and also I think it's also an outcropping of, if I think about it, like if we had not started reinvesting in, well, I'll say it's on-prem, but it's really investing in the customer managed
Mm-hmm.
Citrix deployment, we might not have come to this
Right.
point, right? If it was all still just cloud and all cloud all the time, then we might not have this. But since starting to talk about this and talk about it with customers throughout the year, it's something that's got a lot of people excited. They've got a lot of investments in infrastructure as code and building their practices around that. And I think this aligns very nicely with all of that.
Exactly. So, we've mentioned on premises a couple times already, right? And I think, there's that notion that on premises is, a thing of the past. It's going away. Everything's moving cloud. And you just wrote an article on Tech Radar about this. And, as I was reading through it, one of the things I liked, you framed was having to establish, your infrastructure environment basically as like Switzerland, right? That neutral party. So, and, as I was reading through that and knowing you were coming on, I was wondering if, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what you meant by that?
Yeah. I guess at a very high level, I'd say I'll start back with sort of core Citrix values and principles, right? So, so even more so than on-prem versus cloud or versus one cloud versus the other, I think about the Citrix core value prop and I'd say part of our technological culture and even our core competency is this desire to enable customer choice and the flexibility there. Right, so that's really what we specialize in. Yes, we've got virtualization and protocols and all these different things that make that happen, but we do that in mind with how can we be the glue that ties together the various ecosystems that a customer wants or needs to use. And so that extends really to this choice of infrastructure, and that now that we've kind of had this moment where we said, okay, we're not going to be all cloud all the time. It puts us sort of back in our comfort zone of saying, okay, so if a customer wants to do something in the cloud, we absolutely need to enable that. But the signals have been strong from the customer base, and the feedback has been incredibly loud. That there's not sort of a one size fits all. There's not a one answer in terms of infrastructure for the customers. And, we started out as saying, hybrid is the destination for these. It is more likely than not a more permanent state than anybody really thought of, say, 3-4 years ago, when everyone was saying, oh, I have to be cloud first. I'm not, I can't go to my CIO and say I'm not cloud first because, that's his objective. Well, I think I've seen, more than several CIOs have turned that around and said, okay, no, we're not going to be cloud first. We're going to be cloud smart. It's a use case. It makes sense for many things. It does not make sense for many others. And so that was really, the comment of, or I think that article closed with, sort of tongue in cheek saying, don't call for a priest for on-prem, referee. Call for a referee.
Yes.
Right? you need something to help kind of bring these worlds together, or just manage your various options. And that's really all they are. They're options. They're use cases. We like to swing the pendulum pretty hard in the tech world. But now I think it's somewhere there.
Yeah, when I was reading through that, it reminded me too of when I was on the sales engineering side and going into customers and, having customers say, listen, we're not thinking about cloud at all. And you're going in, this was a time when we were like cloud focused, and it was like, okay, totally understand. And, I would love to go back to those customers now to see where they are, just, did that mindset change? Are they on a different path? Because, between, leadership changes and things like that, it's always a constant change. I think that's the one thing with IT. It's a constant change. So.
I'll also preview some other things I think that we'll start to reveal in 2024. But we just closed off an industry survey that we're doing, and just trying to understand like where people are in their cloud journey, and are they moving to the cloud, back from the cloud? What are sort of the trends there? And as just a teaser, I think what we've seen so far from the data already is that. I'd say upwards of 90% of customers have participated in some sort of cloud repatriation project over the past couple of years, and a lot of those are they've moved not everything back. We're not saying the cloud's not an option, but up to 50% of those
Wow.
workloads kind of coming back on prem. And so yeah, so
Yeah.
things change, and even those customers that I talked to that said, yeah, we're all in on cloud, that is our strategy. And I said, well, okay, can you guarantee me in 5 years that you will still be all in on cloud? And
Right.
none of them are willing to take that bet, right? So hey, if you want options, look for partners that provide
Absolutely.
you those options.
Absolutely.
That's our message.
Absolutely. So we've gotten through the easy questions for our conversation. So I do have a couple harder ones. And the
Okay.
first one was the recent announcement around CUGC being brought in house to Citrix. So and obviously there's the community out there is wondering what's going to happen, what the plans are. Is there anything that you can share with us that what that means for CUGC members, local meetings? What our vision internally is for that.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to start with we've had for the past 8+ years a tremendous partner. Yes, they were a vendor or a contractor to us, but really a partner, and close partnership with
Mm-hmm.
Engage Strategies, who helped run, many know them probably better as CUGC HQ. And they've done a phenomenal job. And so I want to first make sure that the emphasis is on, like, hey, this is nothing that they did. It's not like there was any sort of real issue in how they were doing things. It's been phenomenal. I think going forward, the reality was really that although CUGC as we currently know it, it has reached a milestone. Our intent and what we're trying to do is we really want to invest more in the communities, not less. So that would be the first thing I would hope people will see. I know words are
Mm-hmm.
words right now, but as we go through 2024, we want to bring those communities more information, more access to product managers, to our leadership, and frankly, we wanted to reinvigorate a lot of the in-person types of opportunities that we have. Now, just from a practical matter, in order to do that, the money has to come from somewhere. If we want to invest in doing more of these events and bringing more content and hopefully more like hands-on learning
Mm-hmm.
labs and things like that, that people have been requesting from events that we've done in the past, the return of those types of opportunities, that takes funding, and it takes a certain amount of logistics and regulatory controls on what you do
Right.
with the marketing information and all that stuff, right? So that was all stuff that we needed to invest more in, and we needed to do that in house and bring that internal. In order to be able to deliver that type of content. So I'd say, the mission here is really to create more opportunities for those in-person events, and we are targeting a minimum of 10 of those across the geographies throughout 2024. That's not to say that those are the only things
Right.
that are going on, but we want to kind of bring some of those customer events that we've done in the past. People remember the
Yep.
synergies and the iForums and whatever else we call them through the years. It won't be of that same sort of one global kind of conference, but really bringing that into more regions. Because I think what we've also seen, and I've spent a lot of time on the road the past year, going to events and looking, at how others are executing on them. It's still tight on travel. It's difficult for people to find the time and get away. So we're going to try and bring that to people, and bring it into a region closer to you, if not directly in your hometown. And invest in the community engagement there. And my promise there is that we want those things to be technical. We know CUGC events were technical. that they offered a lot of great value for the admin
Yep.
personas and folks that that have that need. So so that is the intent to keep it that way. We'll sprinkle in more about our roadmap and vision and direction, because I think that's the other thing that we've heard is we've been lacking in like getting to feel just seeing the keynote demo
Right.
of what's coming or what our direction is. Those types of things are important. So we'll find a good mix of like, hey, high level vision, strategy, direction, and then some deep hands-on technical.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well.
That is like what I think people always clamor for, and when I've talked to people as well, like, when are you guys bringing hands-on labs back? Oh, those are the best. That and synergy. When are we bringing back synergy? Right? It's like, so it's glad to hear, and I think people will be glad to hear that that is what we're doing going into next year. What about on the training side? That's another area I know that people talk to me about as well and bring it up. Like, are we doing anything with Citrix training and certifications, and where is that heading?
So I guess one other comment on the communities and kind of related to the training, though, is in addition to the live in-person stuff that we're bringing back, we're also investing in more of a virtual global community platform as well. So I want to mention that because I know also some of the smaller community groups or local groups, they took a hit through pandemic. It was harder to get together, and then people, it's not always in the same location anymore. And we've got a platform in mind. We're actually actively working on building it out, and that'll offer a lot of those opportunities to connect globally with other community members and do that in real time and get some real feedback. And we'll be driving our product teams as well to make sure that we maintain a finger on the pulse of what's happening there, and we're responding to messages and stuff like that. So, so if you're not at a live event, there will be more online opportunities as well that we're going to create. So online and learning and community, I think that's also closely related to this idea of training and like, how do I get smart and get educated on recent releases, or even just sort of like some of the core fundamentals. I've had a number of customers saying, I've been working with Citrix since, the late 1990s, but now I've just hired somebody who is a freshie,
right.
or
no idea what Citrix is, right? Exactly.
No idea what Citrix is, and how do we get them up to speed? So one of the things in organizationally that we've done is we're bringing a lot of that sort of institutional knowledge about building training and courseware into the product BU. And our intent in 2024 is to go, first refresh that catalog, make sure we've got the relevant info out there for the fundamentals, but then also start designing and gearing the training towards where we're headed as well. I can't say too much more about that just yet, but I'll say in the early part of next year, overall you'll see some of the product strategy and really trying to look at the capabilities of Citrix, and I'll be inclusive of NetScaler. Citrix and NetScaler combined, right? Like, what does that platform look like? How do I adopt it? What does that journey look like? Who are the personas that need to touch that technology? And so we'll be looking at the training, and I think I'd like to do some innovative things with the training as well. So I think there's certainly sort of the traditional, very traditional instructor-led training. Those will continue. Reinvigorate some of the certifications that people rely on for their careers or as a partner, showing to a customer that you've got the expertise. But then also looking at at the end of the day, the objective is to make people smart on Citrix and to make them adept and fans of the technology. So I can do that in online modules through e-learning. I can do that through e-learning platforms. I can do that in the product. I can do that, as through the communities engage, hey, if I just need a little bit on this couple of topics here, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same sort of
Right.
traditional
I
courseware and training
totally get
program.
that. I just think about how my kids learn stuff today, right? Everything is digital,
Yeah.
right? It's my
Yep.
my kids, unfortunately, most of them get their news from TikTok and things of that nature, and but just thinking about how they learn in school and everything going online, and it's crazy. So I think going towards that sort of notion also makes sense, right? So
TikTok is an interesting model, right? In the sense that, like, yeah, there's you may have to wade through a bunch of other stuff, but there's actually a lot
right.
of educational material out there. Right? Like I love to cook, and so there's lots of like real quick things that get you very specifically into specific techniques or types of foods and things like that. And I think the same sort of thing can be done to technology training as well. And the real beauty of TikTok is that you see very specifically in a few minute chunks what people are interested in, what they're pursuing, what they look at one after
Hmm.
another, right, and what the sequence is like. And if some of that mentality can be brought to the training as well, then we get feedback sort of indirectly on like where are people having
Right.
problems, where are they looking for training, or what are they interested in, and leverage that to continue to build on the training model and make it more
Yeah,
effective.
it's just it's a whole different mindset. It makes everything, it makes it interesting, which is great. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yep.
wraps up about the questions I had. So I again I really appreciate you joining today. It was a great way,
Oh, this
I
was
think,
fun.
to wrap up the first part of my season 3 here. It's giving me, and I think probably I know it's giving our listeners a something to to look forward to in 2024 and everything that we're going to be doing. So as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening so far this season. As we get into the holiday season, wish you all a happy holiday season, happy New Year, and we're going to be returning after the New Year with new episodes again of the Click Down. So until then, thank you for listening, and this has been the Click Down.